You All right. Okay. Welcome everyone to the Selma City Council regular meeting. It's October 3rd, 2022, 6 p.m. in the Selma City Council chambers, 1710 Tucker Street, Selma, California, 93662. The teleconference phone number is 301-715-8592. The webinar ID is 891-6864-5005. And when on the phone, if you wish to address council during the public comment portion of the agenda, press *9 to raise your hand. And we will select you from the meeting queue. Press *6 to mute and unmute yourself. Tonight's meeting will be held in accordance with AB 361 in Government Code Section 54953, and the meeting will be held remotely. Members of the public may access the meeting using the information I just listed. Before we get started tonight, can we please have a moment of silence for our Selma Police VIP, Dory Moya, who passed away recently. I think a lot of you knew Dory. She came by. She was always a light and give people hugs and was just a great person and a great addition to Selma. And we know she's looking over us tonight, and I think it'd be appropriate for a moment of silence. Now, would everybody bow your heads, please? Okay, thank you for that. We know Dory's watching over us. And with that, we will ask for our invocation pastor to come up, and that will be Franco Atkinson of the First Southern Baptist Church.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council. Thank you for this opportunity that we have to be able to go before the Lord. So let's go ahead and pray. Father God, we love you. We thank you for this day. And Father, we humbly come before you asking and praying for guidance and for peace of mind, to have peace amongst everybody, that everything will be done according to your will, that our elected officials will be guided by you. And we pray also to comfort those who mourn the death of Dory. And Father God, I would just pray that everything will be done according to your will. Bless everybody here. In the name of Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra.
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
Here.
Councilmember Trujillo.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho.
Here.
Mayor Robertson.
Here. Potential conflicts of interest. Any council member who has a potential conflict of interest may now identify the item and recuse themselves from discussing and voting on the matter. Oral communications. At this time, any member of the public may address the city council regarding any item over which the council has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will be taken on any item not on the agenda. Issues raised will be referred to the city manager for review. Members of the public shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. To limit the liability of the city, all remarks should be directed towards the city council. Does anyone have any oral communications tonight?
Evening, Mayor, City Council, Pastor Marty, 9791 East Elkhorn, Selma, California, Pastor Christ Driven Church. I just wanted to come and address our council. You guys do a wonderful job. But some of my parishioners have asked me questions, and so I wanted to address it to you, and that way it's a known fact. A couple have come to me and said that it's being said that there's a separation of church and state because one of our candidates is a pastor. And I know you guys know that that's not true, but I want us to understand that comes from the Establishment Clause from the First Amendment, which says Congress can make respecting no establishment to form a state religion, and that we have the free exercise thereof. It'd be like my parishioners being able to run for city council and saying that, but the pastor's not allowed to do that. It's the same as saying that, hey, there's a separation of someone that has a restaurant and says, well, they'll use that to be able to promote their food or anything that their product might be. We're ministers of the gospel. We know what it is to run city government because we run at the highest level. We answer to the highest power. And so I just want to say that I've always told people this. I've told, especially I have to deal with it in the Christian community. There's no such law. There never has been a law. There never will be a law like that. It comes from Thomas Jefferson and James Madison when they're actually debating a church, or actually, I'm going to cut through this. You don't have time for this. 3 minutes isn't going to cover it. But there was a certain particular group of people that want preferential treatment. And they said, we can't do that. We just fled Europe for that reason. Therefore, we are not going to establish a state-ran religion. We choose to stay out of the church's business. We saw in 2020 that didn't happen. It didn't for us. We stayed open the whole time, but that's not allowed. And so I just wanted to say that because I know that's beneath all of you guys. I know you guys rise to a higher standard as leaders in our community. But as a pastor, I made a promise to our congregants. I says, well, I'll go and address that so that they know that. It's easy to look it up. It's real easy. You can do it right now on your phone. The Establishment Clause come from the First Amendment, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and it was put into a letter form just to say, as an advisement, we are not going to get involved in your affairs. Never was it. And so it goes back to the old thing. If you tell a lie long enough and loud enough, people start receiving it as truth. It's never been true, never will be. And I've always said it to everybody. I have $10,000 in the bank waiting for somebody to show me that law. I hope campaigns. There isn't one. Your new attorney will be able to tell you that there's no such law. It is a misnomer, and it's just wrong. It's wrong to do that to the people of God. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
God bless you.
Do we have anyone else who has a comment at this time? Do we have anyone on Zoom or on the phone who would like to make a comment?
Hi, Ms. Trevino. Your line is open. Can you unmute your line, please?
Thank you.
You have 3 minutes. And can you state your name for the record?
My name is Andrea Trevino. I live on Nelson Boulevard between Highland and Thompson. I just want to raise the issue for your next agenda, if possible. The safety of our children, especially with all this traffic and when schools are having events and stuff. My niece was tragically injured on Friday night at a football game. And I just want to know what the city can do to prevent such things from occurring. I'm not blaming you, but can we get a stop sign at the crosswalk by the high school and back of the high school going to the football game? Can we do something to prevent another accident from happening? And also here on Nelson Boulevard, it is extremely busy. There is people that speed down the street all the time. And I have a toddler and I am fearful for her to be outside playing in the front yard. Can we get more police? Can we do something? Can we get volunteers out there monitoring the children at the schools? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trevino, and all the best to your niece. Really, our prayers go out to you for a very rapid recovery. Do we have any other?
You.
You're welcome. Do we have any other communications?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will go on to our first special presentation, which is a certificate of recognition for Pizza Planet Video World presented by Councilmember Trujillo.
So thank you for coming. Gary and Nita Marshall have been here for 30 years as a business and on East Front Street. And I find it very important that as we introduce new businesses, we should also, come on over, we should also recognize businesses that have been here for long term and recognize them for everything they've done. Their business has countlessly provided for Pop Warner football. I know the Bandits, I was coaching many, many years ago in 2000, soccer teams, baseball teams, not to mention all the fundraising car washes you guys have done. Your business has really been an outlet to our community. I think our community members have grown to know your business. And when I heard that you guys were closing, I reached out to your son-in-law and asked them, hey, would it be okay to recognize you? Because I feel that not only do we recognize businesses coming to our community, we need to recognize them as they leave, and we need to thank them for all the years of service, because our community needs to show that they really mean a lot to us. So for that, I commend you, and I want to give you this certificate, but let me read to you what it states here. It states, the City Council of the City of Selma hereby recognizes Gary, Anita, and Marshall. We applaud your efforts in the community and commend you for your countless support to the youth programs for over 30 years. Presented this third day of October 22nd, Mayor Scott Robertson, Mayor Pro Tem Beverly Show, Councilmember Sarah Guerra, Blanca Mendoza Navarro, and John Trejo. Congratulations. I really, really thank you for all the service you guys have done to this community, but I would love for you to speak and give us some input as to, if you like.
Hey, I don't have much to say other than it has been good. And
He gets emotional because it was hard. We've always loved our employees. They were like family, and we've always loved our customers. We always had such fantastic customers. That during the time that we were getting ready to leave, they came to us and they all told us how they remember coming there when they were little, and it always makes us emotional.
That's good. I want to say something. One Friday night, I drove in and ordered pizza, and you guys had a band going, and you guys had it going on good. And I said to you, I said, hey, what is this? And you said, we get together and people play. And there was a really good music, a lot of community members, and really, really, that showed that not only did you have the young individuals, you had the older generation, you had just a diverse crowd. We really appreciate everything you've done, everything you've given to the community. So can we take a picture? It's okay.
Selma needs more of that.
Yeah. That's what
Selma
we need.
needs places for the people to go and do things. I wanted to keep it the same. I wanted it to be somebody take it and run with it, make it better than I've done, and keep it a family place. I'm looking for a place for myself that I can go and have a beer and play a game of pool in a family environment.
Words that I've taken into you. Yeah. Well, okay.
Stand up.
Come on over.
Okay,
Okay, come on, guys. Come on over here. Come on. Let's do this. Sarah, in a minute. So much congratulations. You guys all are looking endeavors.
I really love the house.
Great. Thank you for that, Councilmember. Now we will move on to our Public Works Department update on drought impact to city park facilities.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Rob Terry, Deputy City Manager. We had set tonight to have our Public Works Department and Fernando Moran, who was going to lead the presentation, late in the day received some news that he had a family emergency that he needed to attend to. And so we are going to bump this presentation to the next council meeting, and just our thoughts and our prayers out with Fernando as he attends to his family tonight.
Thank you for that information.
Thank you.
With that, we will move on to the consent calendar. All items listed under the consent calendar category are considered routine. The complete consent calendar will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote. For purposes of discussion, any council member may have an item removed from the consent calendar and made part of the regular agenda. The council can then approve the remainder of the consent calendar. Does council have any an item or items they would like to have removed from the consent calendar tonight?
Mayor, I'd like to remove D,
Okay.
check register.
I'd like to remove item B.
B.
B as in boy. Anyone else have an item they'd like to remove? Okay, is there a motion to approve items 1A and C?
I'll make a motion.
Second it.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro. Yes. Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes, item B is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the First Amendment to the Golden State Corridor Cooperative Agreement. Many of us have been waiting and waiting and waiting for the Golden State Corridor project, which is the project that will come in and completely redo and rehabilitate the old 99 Golden State from Fowler through Selma to Kingsburg. As you know, this or may not, it's been so long, you may have forgotten, but the funds for this were programmed through Measure C, which is a 0.5 cent sales tax that's countywide. And cities and areas provide for funding for these projects. And a long time ago, the cities of Fowler, Selma, and Kingsburg were fortunate enough to have this program. But what happens when you get these projects programmed is it takes a while for them to come in. So a few years ago, it was actually the bridge at Huron that was the recipient of Measure C. And we all thought about 4 years ago when that was over, this is great. We're gonna get, our Golden State repaved and get those oleanders out and make it look new. And then COVID hit and it delayed things. So now we are back on track several years later, and this agreement with the cities shows that we are there. We are, unless I'm mistaken, we are in Part C of the construction agreement, which means next step is actually repaving the roads.
To bid it out. Yep,
To bid it out
absolutely.
for the repaving and reconstruction of the roads and to make the area look better and to look for areas of economic opportunity and to market our 3 cities in this joint collaborative program that we've all been waiting for. And I just wanted to let folks know that because it's come up as a question many times. When are we going to fix our roads? Who hasn't driven past McDonald's and said, I need to go get my shocks fixed because it's so bumpy there? It's coming. The money has been programmed. The project is finally on its way, and it was paid for by your money, by Measure C sales tax. So this is actually happening. Deputy City Manager Terry, do you have anything to add in terms of specifics, when it'll bid, what the timeline is, the funding source, all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely, Mayor. I think you covered the most important aspects of it there. I would just point to a couple of the items within the amendment that do adjust what the original agreement was. First and foremost, it lists the county as the responsible agencies. There has to be one lead agency that the dollars can go through, and that really acts as an overall project manager. So that list, Fresno County is doing that. The reason why all of the groups together felt that Fresno County was the best agency to take that on was because of the scale of projects that they are used to taking on because of the amount of lane miles that they have. So it was, they already have that experience. They have the staff that's used to items of that scale, and everyone felt very comfortable with that, felt that was appropriate. This also breaks the project into 2 separate phases. Phase 1 deals with all of the items that do not interface directly with the railroad. And then phase 2 ends up being items that do interface with the railroad. There were some timing challenges that came along with working with the railroad there. And the intent, of course, was to not hold up the project as those communications were continuing and still had some holes there. But very important to understand that the road construction, the majority of the road construction is, of course, in phase 1. And then it just ensures that there is some additional discussions there. As you know, Measure C, as it looks out 20, 30, 40 years, and you're doing your best to project what you believe the costs are going to be at that time. As you then get closer you get a better picture of what costs actually are. So it was taking a look at what those estimated costs are, and it just simply reinforces the language about if there is shortfalls between Measure C and the actual bids as they come in, how that will be dealt with, and the fact that FCTA and Fresno COG will continually work together with the local agencies to seek additional flexible funding, grant funds, whether that's federal, state dollars, to try to fill in that gap. And as a last resort, the language was already there about local agencies maybe needing to give some more in order to make that project happen. But that language is consistent with the language that was in the original agreement. But it does provide for just a better picture. Now that we're closer, it kind of focuses in there. But aside from that, I think that the statements that you gave really give a great overview of the project.
And I think, thank you for that, Deputy City Manager. And have been people who've asked about the bicycle lanes as well, right? At this point, it's going to be a bicycle lane that's going to be 5 feet, which is for cyclists out there, that's quite a bit of space, which is very good. It's not an actual, and I think it's a class 2, but it's not a class 4 that's actually sectioned off like the Kingsburg bike path.
Correct.
But that is potentially coming after the Golden State Corridor project has been completed, and that's a subject that will be in discussion, but there will be bike lanes, to my understanding, built
Correct.
into
And
the
the amount of right of way
reconstruction.
that they talked about could accommodate a separation in the future, and that was part of the design.
Thank you for that. And then that's 14.1 mile. Oh, last thing. People have also asked, are they going to start with Kingsburg? Are they going to start with Fowler? Are they going to start with Selma? It's my understanding they're going to start everywhere. They're going to do it all at once.
That was my understanding of the discussions up to this point. That's how the scope goes out. When the bids actually come back, depending on who is bidding on those items, they may have a different proposal included within their bid. And if there needs to be some adjustment on where they're going to start and when they're going to start in order to cost control, that very well might be part of ensuring that we're going to be able to stay within what Measure C can fund or what dollars we currently have can actually fund.
And the cooperative agreement goes to 2026. Is that the envisioned timeline for the project, at least
It
phase
is.
1?
It is. That's correct.
And if I may add, Mayor Robertson, we met with the county last week, Bernard Jimenez from the County Public Works Department, who's overseeing the contract, and the bids are actually opening. So the bid is open right now. They're going to be opening all the bids on October 6th for the phase
Exciting.
1. They are meeting with all the cities, and we're trying to coordinate a presentation by the FCTA, who oversees the funds, and the county, who's overseeing the construction, to come to the city council and explain, once they've hashed out, as Deputy City Manager has mentioned, hashed out the contractor and where they're going to start, to talk about the plan, because really Selma has the most businesses along the Golden State Corridor than any of the other cities that are being affected by this construction. So we're going to want to have a lot of lead time to coordinate with our businesses on the impacts to to their facilities. Ultimately, whether it starts in Kingsburg or Fowler, I think we'll probably have a good amount of time to do that outreach. We would probably come to council requesting some additional funding to perform that outreach, because that informational campaign is not part of the Measure C budget. So we will have to, come up with that ourselves. But I think it's well worth the investment to make sure that our businesses are being properly notified about the construction and impacts to their businesses.
Absolutely right. Thank you very, very much for that. Okay, did anybody have any other questions or issues on the
Just
Golden State?
quickly, Deputy City Manager, the time frame. Again, I know you mentioned. So once the bidding goes out, or City Manager, and we get the bids back, what's the time frame? Are we looking at next summer? How quickly is this going to start moving?
Yeah, I think I'd defer to you on that one, Fernando, since you were present at the most recent meeting, and that time frame may have been focused a bit more.
Yeah, it really depends on how quickly they can start construction, right? So the goal right now is summer up to 2023 to start that construction. It could be anytime before the end of 2023 before they even get done with the first phase. The beginning of the next phase is all going to depend on the coordination with the railroads. And so those are the things that are kind of up in the air, but it's going to be a lengthy construction period, I think, going well into 2024, potentially into the following year. And, you know, what the county has mentioned to us is that they're going to try to coordinate so that the impacts, you know, while we're looking at the construction for Golden State, there's also construction for the route, State Route 99. So 99 construction is ongoing. So we're going to try to mitigate the impacts to one side of Fowler, for example, can be heavily impacted by both projects going on at once. Selma can be heavily impacted. So, we'll have to see how things develop with the contractor once that contract is awarded. But right now, the timeline is really just dependent on who the contractor is. Okay.
Anyone else? Anybody from the public? Anyone on the phone or online wishing to comment on this project? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's going out to bid. I've already been texting guys that I've worked with I have a great connection with Rick Carsey, who has done big major work. So we have someone that's home right now that does big stuff like that, bridges and all kinds of stuff. Helped me build Emmanuel Sports Complex when we built the sports complex and stuff. So there is somebody right here locally to be able to reach out to.
And that's an open bid process, so it's advertised.
Yeah, and just to clarify, the bid is actually out right now. So the county is receiving the sealed bids, and we'll be opening all the sealed bids on October 6th. So that's wrapping up here pretty soon this week.
Thank you. There will be phase 2 of that project too, the railroads. Okay. All right, with that, we will ask for an approval on this item. Is there a motion to approve item 1B? Is there a second? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Okay. Check register.
Okay, let's go to page 63. Just a couple of items. I need just some clarification. Check number. I think it looks like it's 80315. And it's EPCR software. I believe for 40112. What is that for?
That'd be for our EMS units, for when they respond to a call, the paperwork they take, it's all done via computer, and that's the software for that.
And we have here. Okay, check number 80330, and it says cleanup Rockwell Pond, the amount of $350. What was that for?
That is going to be code enforcement. They do have a budget item where they will where they will address needed cleanup items. They then take that amount and it is leaned against the property. So they outreach to the property owner and give them a certain amount of time to eradicate the issue. And if they do not act within that amount of time, then code enforcement contracts those services out and liens the property.
Okay. And then another one here for check number 80340, All-Star Fire Equipment, blue NFPA helmets, 3,043.
It's safety equipment for our EMS personnel.
Is it just called blue helmets?
Well, they're safety helmets and they're blue, so
Okay.
that's just kind of how
Makes
everything with
sense.
EMS is blue, so that's the description.
Okay. And then I just have one more. On the next page, 64. And that is for check number 80378. It's for Second Chance Animal Shelter. And it's for 8,163.57, but there's a G for grant. I've never seen that before.
I think that was a typo, Councilmember Guerra. That is not paid for through a grant.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying.
No problem. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Just had an item 80355, top of 64, Financial Pacific leasing 2019 Danico Wildland Vehicles lease.
Sounds like the lease payment for our brush truck We
Okay,
do twice.
21,000. Does that sound about right?
That's correct, twice a year.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion
Item
to
D.
approve.
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro, Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Okay, on to regular business. First item is consideration of a resolution approving the collective partnership agreement with the California Community Economic Resilience Fund for the Central San Joaquin Valley region.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. We have Karen Aceves
Yes.
with the Central Valley Community Foundation to make a presentation about this item. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, city manager, staff, and community members. My name is Karen Aceves. I'm with the Central Valley Community Foundation, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Community Economic Resilience Fund. The fund was established last year by Governor Newsom, and it's to create a 2-year planning phase. He split the regions into 13 regions across the state. The Central San Joaquin Valley, which we're in, includes the Fresno, Madera, Tulare, Kings area. And the goal is to award one project per region for $5 million over the course of 24 months to undergo a planning phase to develop the region's economic plan. And this opens us up to a lot of funding opportunities. So it's $5 million for the 2 years, but that unlocks us competing across the state for $500 million in funding. And then future funding looks like there will be $400 million in funding that we can apply for as a region between Inland Empire and the Central Valley. So there's a lot of funding opportunities coming out of this. It also allows us to leverage for federal funding dollars. So this could be a lot of match that we could use for large federal projects. The goal of this program is to create higher paying jobs, remove barriers to job access, and move towards a carbon neutral economy. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, each region will be provided $5 million, and a little bit that's going to go into the plan is there are elements that are prescriptive that we have to include. They include a regional summary, a labor market analysis, industry cluster analysis, SWOT analysis, strategic planning, and benchmarking. At the end of the 24-month period, we're going to have what's called a transition roadmap and an economic plan where we outline 4 to 5 projects across the region that we want to prioritize. Things that we heard in the proposal phase were things like broadband, things like workforce development centers. Want to get away from thinking about this as a per capita thing. Everyone in every city gets a certain dollar amount. We really want to try to prioritize persistent poverty communities and really focus resources where they're needed rather than just splitting it up equally. Next slide, please. Another one of those focus areas includes bringing organizations and groups that haven't been involved in traditional economic development processes before. So you can see we have grassroots community-based organizations, labor, environmental justice organizations, and you won't necessarily see them in economic tables, but in order to create higher paying jobs, to move towards carbon neutral economy, and to create a regional plan that it's inclusive of all, the state believes that it's in the best interest to include all stakeholders, and we agree, frankly. Next slide, please. Why participate? So again, this is not necessarily to fund the pothole in your city. This is really to think across a region and say, what are we facing as a region? And rather than siloing ourselves and going after different funding opportunities separately, let's come together and see what we need together and support each other through lobbying for federal funds, through support letters, funding matches, partnering private and public capital, all different types of ways where we can support each other. Also bringing together organizations that haven't been together before. Through the proposal phase, we brought together hundreds of organizations that have frankly never sat at the same table before, and we were able to engage them in really good conversations about where they can meet in the middle and what they do agree on and what we can move forward. So we've done some of that in the proposal phase, but that's just kind of a preview of what we intend to do over the 2-year process. Next Slide, please. So as I mentioned, there was a very rigorous timeline. The proposal phase was June and July of this year. And we put together a 20-page application with 105 partners grouped in all the different categories that you saw there. The planning phase will be 2 years. And we're looking at the implementation phase. We have 2 decades there just to keep in mind that we're planning for what do we want our economy to look like in 20 years, not necessarily immediate outcomes, but really looking forward to the future of economic development. Next slide, please. And how are we breaking this up? So like the breakdown of every table, let's call them. We have 3 tables, the Fresno table, which includes Fresno Rural, the Madera table, and the Tulare Kings table. The way we've set up every table is to have 35 seats. And in 7 different stakeholder groups. The stakeholder groups are listed there, labor, education, business, community-based organizations, economic development organizations, and so on. And every stakeholder group will have 5 seats and they will all have equal votes. We will use a near consensus method where 4 out of 5 have to agree and 6 out of the 7 stakeholder groups have to agree in order to move something to the larger table. So it gets pretty nested and pretty complicated, but the point is that our governance structure is near consensus, that almost everyone has to agree in order to move one of those projects forward, and everyone gets an equal vote. So economic development organizations don't get more of a vote than tribal communities or than education and workforce. Everyone has an equal vote. Couple of our partners that we've engaged the Urban Institute for the research component. The idea is that Urban Institute will spend the first 6 months putting together all the analyses that I mentioned earlier, the industry cluster analysis, labor market analysis at a national scale. And you know, it says Urban Institute, but it's just their name. They use census tract data to provide us this information. It'll level set across all regions. It'll provide all regions with the same information. And then at the end of that 6-month period, everyone will come to the table and start this collective planning process that uses data to drive the decision making. Our outreach coordinator and state policy support, OSED and California Forward, and I think maybe many of you are familiar with Eduardo or Ish from California Forward, and our regional convener would be the Central Valley Community Foundation. We just see ourselves as an intermediary and a table of tables here to support, but really it's the tables that are going to be building their own plan and their process. We're just there to provide support along the way and kind of the guardrails of the program. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, our approach, we have the 4 local tables. We have Fresno Drive separated there, but they'll lump into the Fresno table. Again, we have a dedicated team. Every local table will have a lead. The Fresno County local table is OSED. The Tulare Kings local table lead is the Tulare WIB, and the Madera lead is the United Way of Fresno Madera. Next. I think that about sums it up, but there's a lot of information in your package. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to take any at this point.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for your report. Does council have any questions?
Karen, I have a couple of questions. Let me just start back with on your beginning of the presentation. You mentioned 2 regions. Can you identify the 2 regions, how it's going to be broken down?
It's, the San Joaquin Valley region is just
Okay.
one, we're just working with one region.
Mhm.
There are 13 regions across the state.
Okay.
The region that we're working into is Fresno, Madera, Tulare Kings. We have our bordering regions there highlighted, and that's just, that's our Northern Stanislaus partner and our Kern partner in the south. And so the goal is that if we build in the dark green, we'll be able to also partner with their surf tables eventually, and if we go after bigger projects as well.
Okay. And my next question is what's Selma's guaranteed? Because we're competing with Fresno County, we're competing with Madera County, Tulare County, and this is what we run into. You know, when we're competing with Visalia, we're competing with Fresno, that's what we get the short end of the stick because these are much larger cities. And then we're to big to compete with Parlier, Fowler, Kingsford. So those are my questions. And I've kind of talked to the director at the Central Valley Training Center, and that's what she told me. She was a go-getter. She fought for the Central Valley because she knew that we were always competing against the LA area, Southern California, and we're competing with San Francisco, the bigger cities, and the Central Valley kept getting the short end of the stick. So this is what I'm looking at again. I mean, I'm just wondering how Selma is guaranteed. And you may not be able to answer that because I know this is new, but those are my questions. It's, we're just, pretty stuck when it comes to competing with these larger cities.
Yeah, and I appreciate that comment because the goal of this is that there is no competition in that regard, that we're working together. So that we're not competing against the city of Fresno, that we're not competing against the county of Madera, that collectively Madera, Tulare, Fresno, all of us, including the small cities which have a vote at the table, decide where those dollars get spent together. Everyone has to agree on that. So it becomes really messy and it becomes really difficult, absolutely. But everyone has an equal vote.
Mhm.
And so that by design prohibits in a lot of ways from the larger cities taking the larger pots of money. And I think the goal in working together here is to we're competing against LA and San Francisco. So the better that we can, the more we can work together, the more chance we have at getting some of those 500 million for us rather than LA, rather than San Francisco. The state is looking to, if this works out well, if everyone can sit together and continue building these plans, to allocate an additional 400 million just for the Central Valley and the Inland Empire to compete against. So only 2 regions would be competing for a large sum of money. So it just incentivizes working together. And the last thing I'll say is that the whole program by design incentivizes smaller, rural, persistent poverty communities. So it focuses away from starting at the city center and rather building outward in. So those are the projects that will ultimately be prioritized. And perhaps it looks something like, if you are developing a workforce training center, you're guaranteeing that there's one within X miles from Selma, and perhaps someone in Madera gets one as well. So there is a balance, and rather than saying how much are we going to get, are we going to, like I said, like cover a pothole, or are we all going to go together, ask for 200, 300 million, and everyone's going to get, we're going to get different regional workforce centers. So that's how we're looking at everyone getting their fair share.
Okay, thank you.
But we have to sign on to this tonight in order to be eligible for the 5 million planning and then the potential $400 million windfall down the road.
Correct, yeah.
You have a question?
I was just gonna say thank you so much. I'm sorry, were you done?
No, I'm done.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for your presentation. And when I went over with the city manager earlier, I told him this agenda just feels like we're being very proactive, and just looking at that growth, right? And I think if I heard you correctly, you did mention that there was no per capita. So that to me was like, it doesn't matter what the size of your city is, you're still sitting at the table. There's 35 seats. They're going to be at the table within these, I think I wrote down 7 regions or 7 stakeholders. And so, it was a great presentation, and I'm, really excited because again, it's the planning of, maybe it's not today, it's, you really do have to look for that future, development and the growth, because, today we're not anywhere near, like we should have been planning this kind of things that many years ago, because things, like I said, don't come overnight. You have to be having that vision. And so thank you so much for your presentation.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I have a question. You talked about cluster analysis and labor analysis, right? And you talked, this might be a 2-year program. My biggest thing is exactly what Councilman Navarro is. Our city, in order for it to grow, we need to have all the analysis. And the question I have for you is, aside of what we can get in regards to funding, where will all that memory bank be? Where will all that information? Because us as a city, economic growth is analysis. Okay, so I want to know, will we be able to access this in 2 years? Will we be able to, all the information you guys have been tallying up and the people you guys are consulting with, will the city of Selma have access to that information? Because it becomes something for us when we're out there looking to create and regionalize and ask, you know, we want to build this, we have this. So I don't look at the number, I look at actually the information. Where's the information in 2 years from now? Where will that information be at? Will we have access to that information?
I so appreciate that question because I think everyone
That's
has
a
different.
long-term vision.
Yes,
make
and,
sure.
and everyone has different databases that they use across the state, right? So a part of the challenge here is, the county of Fresno's database is completely different than Madera's, is completely different than Tulare and King's. And so part of this is getting everything into one database. The other part is that the state, in our discussions with them and in developing this program, said, well, the problem that we're running into is that we don't know what the best way to store this data is. So basically this trial, you'll obviously get a report of all this data. We'll hold the centralized information as well as Fresno State, your local convener. But the goal of the state is to take the best planning processes and the best databases and use that information to create a new database. I think they want to update through the Department of Labor the way they collect all their data. So they're going to be looking at these programs as a way to develop their future.
Okay, thank you. A good presentation.
So could you have done this presentation 2 years ago? It's because of the surplus, right? This is the miracle of the $97 billion surplus in the state. You know, I've been in this 10 years. And with my experience, I've never seen a program like this at all. And it's creative, and it's because there is this excess funding available. And, because I have some experience, my next question is the funding for each region, is it protected funding, or as we're hearing, the state is already allocating less and less money and preparing for the dreaded R word, the recession? Can this money be taken and redirected towards other areas of the economy that are more urgent?
The 500 million certainly cannot. It's been approved, it's been authorized. There's no going back with that. The 400 million, I guess it's up for grabs until it's fully authorized starting January 1 next year. So so far it's stayed in the budget as far as we know. We're tracking that money, and we're also in Sacramento every month, telling people how important it is for that money to stay there. So right now we don't foresee it being removed, but the 500 million is there. And if we can use the 500 million to leverage other federal funds, then we can make that money go far as well.
Great, thank you. Did any members of the public have any questions or comments on this SURF program? Do we have anybody on the phone or on the internet who would like to comment?
As a reminder to the callers that we have on Zoom, please use your raise your hand feature and we will add you to the meeting queue. Mayor Robertson, at this time, I see no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll bring the matter back to council. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mayor, if I may ask a clarifying question. Karen, in terms of the City of Selma's specific role, we are the government representative in the Fresno local table, right? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So there's 4 others. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but I believe it's Kerman, Selma. I can't think of them off the top of my head. I'm happy to provide a list, but I know City of Fresno is not on there. It's mainly rural
Right.
communities.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
With
Karen.
that, we will move on to item 3 of the regular business agenda, consideration of a resolution authorizing an agreement with CopLogic to utilize desk officer reporting systems to create an online reporting system for the police department. Chief Alcaraz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I always hate to read things off of a piece of paper, but I'm going to do so tonight. We have a lot of information. I want to make sure I get it all precisely. So currently, the police department does not currently have an online reporting mechanism for the public to make reports to our department. When a community member requests to file a report, a police response is required to ascertain the necessary information to generate such reports. There are some circumstances when a police response is not necessary due to the minor nature of the call for service. The Selma Police Department is proposing an agreement with CopLogic using their Desk Officer Reporting System, or DORS for short, to create an online reporting system. This system would empower residents to make and access online reports. Insurance companies would also have the ability to access appropriate reports online, which will reduce the demand on our record staff to facilitate these requests. This will also help streamline operations internally and for the public. With that, we all know that as our generations come and go, that a lot more of our citizens are love to use their computer and interface digitally. So this online reporting system is one of those other means for us to more efficiently use our labor force and kind of touch in or tie in with those citizens that prefer to use digital means to interact, if you will. Additionally, this system is something that's been along for quite some time. Agencies such as LAPD to the Fowler Police Department use this online reporting system. And they do so to be able to report things such as minor incident reporting, non-persecutorial shoplifting, non-injury collision reporting, hit and run collision reporting, should there not be a suspect identified, minor property crimes, code enforcement violations, fire violations where there's overowned property or dangerous conditions, residential burglary, theft, supplemental reports, at-risk residents. Sometimes we have residents with Alzheimer's and kind of some other mental health issues that may need to be able to do a report that might not be able to get in immediately and speak with an officer. So it allows them to give us some digital information quickly to help get that information out a little sooner. We believe that by going with an online reporting system, this will improve our response times, have a better allocation of resources, boost community service, around the clock service as well, convenient access, integration into our records management system. And by using the CopLogic system, it will require no infrastructure improvements. Additionally, it'll give us some more robust reporting options for our citizens. The cost for this would be approximately $23,040 over the course of 2 years. We would be budgeting the first year in this fiscal year out of general fund, and we would be working with the city finance department to ensure we have budgeting in year 2. So for each year would be $11,520. Thus the need to come to council for approval. Additionally, we have supplied a sole source letter. And the reason for that is because we rely on the Fresno County Sheriff's report writing system. This CopLogic system, or DORS, will interface with their report writing system seamlessly, meaning we won't have to purchase infrastructure, equipment, software, and things of that nature, which keeps our costs down. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, do you have any questions?
Sure. Does council have any questions at this time? I do. So where will the information be stored, Chief Alcaraz?
So these are all cloud-based systems now, sir. And we all have secured, again, by going through the Fresno County Sheriff's Office report writing system, which is a secure system, that additionally is protected. And we have built-in protections within our agreement.
That's the shell. I get that. That's the architecture, but where does the information go? Where is that cloud?
Exactly where, sir, I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, maybe let me clarify. What's the cloud system that the city uses to store and protect this information?
So currently it's with the Fresno County Mark 43 system. So this will interface into that system. CopLogic
They
also
store the information too.
Yeah, and CopLogic does as well.
And then I guess, okay, since we're going to be piggybacking, as we've heard in the past, on the Fresno County system, what if they do a major system upgrade and, to scale, which I've seen program architecture do we have to do that as well and incur those additional costs, or can we keep the version our own version and go on our own at that time.
You know, the beauty of staying or using this cop logic system and them being under the umbrella or interfacing with the sheriff's office system, typically when the sheriff does an upgrade, they're going to take those things into account to ensure that we don't have to purchase any infrastructure at that time. Now, we can't foresee the future, but if the sheriff was to do something there where this maybe system was not compatible and there were additional costs, I should say, Sheriff Mims, soon to be Sheriff Zanoni, I'm sure would sit down with us and talk about if there is additional costs, we would come to some kind of agreement to ensure that those costs are minimal and that they're all feasible for all parties involved.
And given our age some of our older folks who aren't not necessarily tech savvy, can they still call in these reports?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is not, we're not taking away services from our community. We're just giving them another forum to be able to interface with us that might be more convenient for them. And I'll give you a great example. Today we had 5 people come in and report that their EBTs cards had been, oh my goodness, the word's escaping, but had been compromised. So they wanted to file a report. Well, they had to come down to the police department or wait for an officer to go respond to their home. And really, unless they have some suspect information, and in many of those cases, they don't, they could have just filled out an online report in 5-10 minutes and then just get that information. And then they get the police report that they need to contact the bank or the state for purposes of their own individual needs. So these things, this report writing system is almost ideal for those type of situations that unfortunately we're seeing happen more and more often, right?
The
As people use the internet.
cyber theft.
Exactly. You know, criminals are become more tech savvy, and it's unfortunate they could be compromising our victims from anywhere in the world.
Definitely makes the system more user friendly, and then insurance companies can
Ab-
just file for reports.
Absolutely. So like our
Collisions
traffic
and
collision
things.
reports, we would be uploading into the system and they would be able to access, insurance companies would be able to access those reports through this system as well. So it'll be more efficient for them, more efficient for us.
And will there be like a training phase where this is rolled out and, you know, people are kind of shown how to do this, kind of a learning?
Absolutely. In my experience, where I used to work, we had this system. It's pretty user friendly. It's pretty easy to use, if you will. However, we will have to train our staff to be able to approve those reports and get that information back out so it's available to the citizens. So there will be some amount of training. It's usually not too cumbersome, if you will. But ideally, if a citizen wanted help with that, we could absolutely do that.
And it'll interface with the city's website.
Yes, it would actually.
Little
We'd be able to
hyperlink
put a little
button.
tab that they can do, fill out an online report. Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions, council members? Anything from the public? Any questions about the reporting?
Teresa Saul, 1701 Danube Avenue. How is, not everybody has computer access. So is there going to be a central location where the public may be able to, like the library or a dedicated computer at the police station, where somebody could go and fill out a report if they didn't have access to computers?
But they could fill this out from any computer, I believe even on their phone. However, if they came down to the police department at that time, we could just fill out the report for them.
And is this going to be, how is this going to be advertised to the public so that the public is aware of this?
I think right now our best bet is social media forums. And then as we meet with our communities members over the course of time, we'll also push that as well. We could also put information out. I apologize. I got a little, I forget we don't have the water here. So I'm used to saying put in the water bill, but I apologize. But social
probably
media is
could.
really our biggest means to be able to communicate with our citizens. It works, it actually works very well, I believe. Yes, ma'am.
If we have a water bill here.
Then-
Hot water's here.
Cal
So
water's here.
perfect. I
There you go.
forget. I'm still learning the procedure, so I apologize.
And Mayor, if I might add, I reviewed this agreement along with Chief Alcaraz, and I looked at the previous city attorney's comments. I added another suggestion, and everything is up to standard legally. Lexus is a very reputable company, and everything is satisfactory.
Thank you for that. And then forgive me, we do like our comments to be directed towards the council in the future. This was an informational item, but let's just remember to direct your comments so that the council will direct them. Do we have any more questions? Do we have anybody online or on the phone? Come on up.
Good evening, Mark Dudley. I would like to say, I think it's a great idea to do so. Fresno does do that, City of Fresno. There has been times where I've been in a situation, had my home burglarized and waited literally days to have an officer come out and take a report. So as far as being able to do it online, whether it be your cell phone or computer, it's a great idea. And as far as getting it out to the public, you may also consider having the dispatchers, when the call is made, to address the caller to do so or advise them to do so online.
Thank you for that comment.
I'm glad you mentioned that. We obviously would do that to be able to give that option to our citizens when they call in. So that they, if they're in a rush, they got to get to work or time is restricted, we can give them that option to be able to do that.
Like you say, as people, this option rolls out and more people use it, word will spread and people will get more comfortable with the online reporting process.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Just for curiosity, Pastor Marty Lynch, call Lupono 9791 Elkhorn, Selma. I just want, maybe I missed it, but is there a protocol for, if you just go on and make a report for felonious stuff and things like that? That's just for curiosity. Sounds like a great deal. I just was wondering that.
Chief?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council and public, absolutely. So as those reports come in, we have supervisors that will vet that information. And if we feel that there's, if it doesn't fit the criteria of this system, then we'll send an officer out to respond. Or even if the report does meet the criteria, if we feel that there's more information that's needed, we'll be issuing that out to an officer for follow-up.
I noticed a hit and run collision with no suspect information. Is that if there's no bodily injury? And does that change it? Is there something that changes that to reportable and have an officer come out?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if there's bodily injury, we would be taking a report.
Okay.
So we would have to send an officer out for response on that. We're talking about, if someone was to hit a mailbox and.
Or how about Friday at the football game?
Absolutely not. We're definitely sending all of our personnel to a situation like that. Yeah, that would not be encompassed within this system.
Got it. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, with that, we'll bring it back to council. Is there a motion for the consideration of the resolution authorizing the agreement?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes, and with that, we've been at it for a little over an hour. We'll take a 5-minute break and we will reconvene for agenda item number 4. Okay, is everybody all set? We're gonna get going again. Everybody take their seats. All right, we're reconvening again at 7:08 PM, City Clerk. Make it 7:09. And we are on item 4 of our regular business agenda. This is the body worn camera project update. Chief Alcaraz, one more time.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is just a quick update on where we're at with our body worn camera project. The Selma Police Department has been exploring the implementation of body worn cameras over the past several months. This has involved looking at other body worn camera programs in use at other law enforcement agencies, the many camera systems in use, and in the development of a department policy on the use of cameras. During this exploration stage, the Selma Police Department determined the necessity for a camera system that allows for easy and fast retrieval recordings, and which could also allow accessibility to prosecutors handling criminal cases. Additionally, body-worn cameras have proven successful in recording police actions and assisting in the prosecution of criminal suspects. Body-worn cameras are being implemented in police agencies across the country and have been highly beneficial in countless ways, especially in resolving controversial incidents or police contacts. The use of this technology also allows transparency to the public as we continue to serve our community. The department desires to implement a body-worn camera program in the patrol division. Our expectation is to procure a vendor in the next 2 to 3 months and return to the council for approval. The city of Selma's, we have currently applied for a grant for the purchase of body-worn cameras. Award notification was estimated to be September 30th of 2022, if which this grant was approved, it would assist us in offsetting the costs of this program. That being said, currently we've not, the award notification has not been made public. I don't believe they have finalized the grant awards at this moment. So we'll be checking in weekly to see as soon as this grant notification is made that we're made aware of it, one way or the other. This way we can use other means to try to help fund this program, which is crucial to our police department, to our community.
Thank you, Chief. Does council have any questions for Chief? Okay, so this sounds good on its surface. It's positive, moving in the right direction. Does the grant that the city's applying for, will it pay for the implementation, the record keeping? How much would the grant cover for this?
It's not 100% grant. So, we estimated that the system over a 5-year period would cost in the region of $150,000. And each year that breaks down into about $30,000, which pays for the data storage and the maintenance of the cameras, and actually includes an extra 2 cameras, if I'm not mistaken, to replace if they're malfunctioning or damaged in the line of duty. So all of those costs are included in that yearly expense.
Okay. So I know I've been talking about this for a while, and this builds on the previous agenda item, which provides better customer service, I think, to the people of Selma, as well as making it safer for our officers and helping the liability situation. In fact, I even think the city's insurance provider advocates the use of body cam. So hopefully we'll be able to get maybe a little credit on the insurance premium, because it makes transparent, what's actually happening. It doesn't come down to opinions about what happened. And sometimes there are cultural biases either for or against PDs and individuals, and this just takes it out of that realm. The body worn cameras can make it objective. I did know that we've had a police officers association president in the past say they were adamantly opposed at the patrol level to body worn cameras. And I'm just wondering, this report says that the PD is favorable towards this. Oh, and that the sister agency of the Firefighter Association would go along with that camera body cam situation. Has that changed, Chief Alcaraz? Is there a unanimity towards the benefits body worn cameras for our patrol officers and all the officers who are out in the public?
I believe so. I think that obviously when cameras first came about and came into play in the industry, it was like anything else. Change is always resistant. However, we've shown time and time again, the body worn cameras have been crucial to our success. Obviously, there's always situations where that can be interpreted differently, but for the most part, I think they've been crucial to the success of law enforcement in ways that we never imagined before. So.
Sounds good. So the technology is getting better. They're a little less intrusive and it's getting more accepted.
Additionally, and it's not so new anymore, correct?
Because I mean, when I've talked to pardon the interruption, when I've talked to folks, what I've been hearing is, what? You don't have body cams and you guys don't have body cams yet? You know, so it's something that's really has widespread acceptance out there.
Correct. And just to add to City Manager Santion, it is an expensive endeavor. And the maintenance, the ongoing maintenance, the PRA requests from the public, those are things we have to consider when we implement a project just like this. So even when we have the cameras themselves, we have to be able to plan ahead for the PRA requests that will come in and that we have to meet in a very specified time frame. So those are things that we have to think of ahead. And again, like everything, costs.
And those are definite nuts and bolts considerations that have to be taken. But I think in the big picture, if it can save, you know, one person from one person's life, or if it can save the city from a multi-million-dollar judgment because the facts aren't known, then I think these body cams will definitely be worth it. My question for the city manager is the extent of council's involvement. So we kind of brought this up and set the ball rolling. Will this come back to council to vote on that expenditure when, you know, bids are a service provider is found and the cameras and the storage and the costs are ascertained? Will this come back to council for a vote?
Yes, it will require an agreement with the contractor or the vendor, and it will come back to council.
Okay, and that timeline was somewhere around 2 to 3 months?
That is
For
the
the
estimated
report.
timeline. You know, we are ascertaining at the moment whether this will require a bid process or not, depending on, you know, our stringent requirements for the department. So we're just hoping to see which vendors out there can meet those requirements.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question, Chief. From my understanding with law enforcement, isn't this going to be mandated with all law enforcement? I mean, is it going to come down where pretty much every law enforcement is going to have cameras, body worn cameras?
You know, that narrative has been out there for a while. We've not heard any legislation that's on the board saying by this day, all agencies will have it. I think most of, especially our California law enforcement agencies, are pretty forward thinking and again, are actually eager to get into a project such as this. Again, funding is just one of the biggest obstacles we have right now.
Okay. Now that you mentioned funding, isn't that something that we really need to prioritize in our next budget? Maybe we need to consider that if we don't get the grant or we don't, this is something that we probably have to consider looking at putting in the budget.
I can answer that, Chief Alcaraz. So the budget proposal for the current adopted budget did include funding for body worn cameras in the event that we weren't funded by the grant. So we do have that funding allocated by the council as of July 1st.
Great, thank you.
Good to know. Okay, do we have any comments from the public?
Ten 57 Mill Street, Rose Robertson. So I know that as we've been talking about body cams for the last probably 4 years here in Selma on record. I'm happy to hear that we're discussing it now. I know that we have ARP, or American Rescue Plan money that has been allocated to sewer and other areas. Are they able with us not having any housing going on right now, and we also have a $20 million loan that the city took out, are we able to use some of that money and reallocate it for a really important to start these body cams? Because, you know, we have citizens that are very concerned. And now a big chunk of citizens are aware that we don't have body cams, and it's good that they know that we don't have body cams. And that's very important because I'm also very aware that we lost some very good police officers that left because we didn't have body cams. So this is just very important. This is where our taxpayer money should go. And if you guys are able to reallocate some of that ARP money to get us started on that money, on those body cams, it would be a good thing. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jasmine Plaza, and I just want to comment on this proposition saying that as a young woman, I feel that it is important to have body cams because if, my law enforcement is here to protect me, I want to make sure that they are as transparent as possible. I'm sure that a lot of us are aware of what happened a couple years ago in Sanger, involving a cop with body cams. And in here in Selma, as a young woman, I want to ensure the safety of all women here and not just women and young children as well. And I just want to make sure that the transparency is being, transparent and held with the citizens of Selma. And I want to make sure that we do have body cams because it is important. And why not? Why wouldn't we? Why don't we have them is my question. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Anybody online on Zoom?
As a reminder to the callers on Zoom, please use your raise your hand feature and we will add you to the meeting queue. And to the caller calling in, please use *6 and we will add you to the meeting queue. I'm sorry, that's *9 to raise your virtual hand. Mayor Robertson, at this time, I see no hands raised.
Great, thank you. With that, we'll bring it back to
Mr.
council.
Mayor, I'd like to just comment real quick, quick fact check on our resident saying that we had $20 million loan. I'd like to direct the city manager to fact check that and make sure. I don't think it was 14.3, but let's go ahead and fact check that. I think that when you come and you do a statement, you have the opportunity as freedom of speech, but you don't have the opportunity to look and say numbers that are not factual. So I'd like that factual. $20 million is not a loan that we city did. So if you can fact check that and bring that back to the city council.
Do you have any other comments actually on the topic tonight that we're discussing, the body cams at this time? Okay, this is informational. Is that correct, City Manager Santillan? This is an informational item, or are you calling for a vote tonight?
No, we believe the request that was made by you, Mr. Mayor Robertson, was just as an update on the status.
It could have been a vote. Yeah, it could have been, but it sounds like we are making progress on the topic and we're not quite there for a vote because we don't have the costs ascertained yet. So that's
It's really
good
because
to
of the
know.
grant. We haven't received the notification on the grant.
Or the costs, correct?
We have a ballpark of the cost. We just are waiting to find out if we were awarded
I
the
missed-
grant to
I
offset the
missed
cost.
that. We don't have but you didn't include the costs in tonight's agenda item.
I mentioned it during one of the questions that I answered about the item, about $150,000 over 5 years.
Okay. But you have that in writing somewhere.
Not in the staff report, no.
Got it. Okay, thank you for that. With that, we'll move on to item 5, which is a status update to council regarding the SKF General Manager recruitment. Report, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This item was an item that was requested by Councilmember Trujillo with regard to the Selma Kingsburg Fowler Sanitation District recruitment of the general manager. So I will hand it over to Councilmember Trujillo.
Yeah, for first, I want to make sure we clarify, as city council members, we represent the city and we are, we check and balances all the department heads and all the functions that function the city of Selma. And I've been here for 4 years and I've been talking about infrastructure and I've been talking about what it takes to invest in our community. And lo and behold, I found out that our city has, we've been going 7 months without a manager at SKF. I understand that we do have some projects, and in order to make the projects move, I have a couple of questions and direct them straight to Sarah. Ms. Guerra, Councilwoman B, since you are our immediate person in regards to SKF, and I want to clarify because I received an email. I received an email from the mayor in regards that he was surprised that I was asking in regards to a personnel issue. Well, first of all, the SKF position is not an HR issue. The person that we hire is the issue. The question I'm asking is, we've had 7 months without a manager on SKF. The city of Selma needs someone in that department. And I'd like to know when the date the ad hoc committee was formed, and why hasn't it been put out to actually vent and ask for to hire a city manager?
Okay, I can answer that, Councilmember Trujillo. And I'm Sarah Guerra, and I do sit on SKF's board. And at this time, I want to clarify what Mr. Trujillo has stated is inaccurate. Legally, what I can say about SKF is we have a recruiting firm that has been hired to hire the new general manager. And at this time, we do not have any candidates for that position. And currently, we do have an interim general manager, which is Veronica Cáceres, that has been working there for 20 years, that has experience, and she's the general manager. And she has been doing an excellent job. That is what I can say. We will be getting an update at our next meeting on October the 13th, 2022, which is next week. So that's an accurate statement. We have not been without a general manager. We have an interim general manager. What's surprising that he's questioning SKF and he's wanting to do his due diligence. Go into the Selma City website and you will see, I would be more concerned about 12 to 14 jobs that are vacant in the city of Selma than worrying about SKF.
Are you done? Okay, I want to, and again, this is not, we don't have to get upset. I am sworn with a city council member, and I see, and I have to make sure that we're doing a due diligence. I refer this to the city attorney. This position, we're talking about the word position. We're not talking about actual person. I would like the date that the ad hoc committee was formed. I would like the actual company, since she said when it was obtained, and why is because we're the body here. The mayor elects the persons that represent the district, that represent the committees, the mayor. So the fact that I receive a email that states that he finds it funny, and these are things that this doesn't have to get personal. We're business people. We sit here and we represent the city of Selma. I represent the constituent Selma, and I would like, and I'm directing this to the city attorney, I would like to know why she is not giving us the ad hoc date of the representation of the ad hoc, and I would like to know the firm, and if you can bring back, because that is, correct me if I'm wrong, is that not something that can be discussed?
So, thank you for your questions. To begin, the general status update of the process and what the status is of the recruitment, that is all permissible per the Brown Act. Personnel matters, as the council probably knows, is limited for closed sessions before when the legislative body has the power to hire or fire. And so it was a recommendation from our office, and not just mine, but from our senior attorney who's been representing cities for over 20 years, to keep this update at the general level. However, some of the information that I think the council member is asking for, if it would fit and meet the criteria of a public records request, since SKF is a public agency, that's public information. What we recommend as a city attorney is to avoid the discussion of specific people, salary negotiations, things of that nature. So that's really kind of the guidance from our position, and maybe some of that information is not readily available off the top of your head, but
Right.
if that makes sense, that's kind of the parameters for that.
So I thank you for the discussion. I thank you for Ms. Guerra giving us her feedback in regards to how she's going to answer the question. I will go back and I'll call the manager, Veronica. But we have Veronica is our engineer. There's one engineer in the city of Fowler, Kingsburg, and Selma. Our projects are being moved, and when we have staff wanting to get information, and because she's wearing two hats, it affects our city. 7 months, even one day is money. We all know this. I own a business, we own businesses, but what's surprising is understanding the difference between a HR issue and not an HR issue really surprises me, knowing that we have someone here with 12 years of experience. But I would rather just defer this and we'll go back and we'll call Veronica and ask her to get the information. But thank you.
Council, I'd like to make a comment as well.
Well, that was directed to me. So I'll make a comment
Okay,
at this
go ahead.
point, if you don't mind. So my email was just clarification because I received an email from the city manager last thing on Friday saying we had to have this agenda item. It was really, really urgent. And I questioned the timeliness of the agenda item. As you heard from the city attorney, the way the question could have been formulated would have been reasonable to ask about, what's going on with the search. But the way it was phrased was, it was more about the title itself, the position itself, and that there was some sort of urgency in putting it on the agenda at that time, which I questioned. So just a couple of items. I don't elect councilman, the SKF representative. I do make the selection, but I don't elect. An elect is an election. And you said, I said it was funny. I said I was surprised by the urgency, I guess, of your comment because, and the way it was phrased. Because
Mayor, I have your email here.
this is a potential personnel matter for the council member Guerra. And that really wasn't taken account of. You could have asked the city manager to forward that to council member Guerra to ask her board what she could get and come back rather than just putting it on the agenda. And so now we've created an agenda item, and then we'll have another agenda item if you request it again to come on, or Councilmember Guerra can, as she's done in the past, provide updates on Selma, Kingsburg, Fowler Sanitation District, the executive director search, which her board is undertaking right now. So that's just a clarification there.
And also, attorney, certain things were in closed session, were discussed in closed session, and I'm advised by our legal attorney that represents SKF as what I can say. And this is what she stated. Now, if you want to know when we formed an ad hoc, he could have just asked me. But anyways, I want to clarify that we have not been without a general manager. Veronica Cáceres has been the interim general manager, and there has not been any projects to this date that have been behind or left behind because we do not have a general manager. That is, his statement is inaccurate.
Yeah, what each council member has shared, that's within your rights to state and make the statements that you've made. I would never advise you to share something against what the legal counsel of that body has advised. And I do not know what they have advised to be shared or not to be shared, but I would not do that.
Okay, that will bring the matter back to council. This is a information item. Would the public like to comment on this item at this point?
Sure. So, I asked why this was brought up too, and, it's true the general manager did retire 7 months ago. So, wearing two hats for a long time can get things do fall through the cracks. So I don't think that the statement of because we don't have a general manager, things have fallen through the cracks because of that specific position. I think it's because the engineering part of it may, and I'm not gonna, comment on that or ask for a response on that, but I think it's more of in general, we have one engineer for all three cities. And so we have gone very long without work being done on these lift stations. And now that we're moving forward, we don't want them to stop because the engineering process is not being done. Not necessarily the general manager position, but because the engineering aspect of it is not being done. So it has nothing to do with, again, the person. It has to do with the work that's being completed. And we don't want anything to fall through the cracks, not necessarily the position. So I think that's what I'm understanding. So, but it would be good to see, you know, if we've been out or SKF has been out general manager because they retired 7 months ago. When was the committee formed? Because it was known that he was retiring. So it wasn't something that all of a sudden the person, you know, just gave 2 weeks notice. Typically they give, you know, ample notice if they're retiring. So an ad hoc committee could have been, you know, established way before that. And then also with the recruiting company could have been, you know, established way before. So.
Can I comment? I'd like to comment again, another inaccurate statement. No, Mr. Ben Munoz did not give ample time. He only gave, it was about 3 weeks notice. And that's exactly how it happened. Again, there was an ad hoc committee form, but that form wasn't established until I would say a few months. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Just a few months ago. There has been some cancellations at the SKF meetings because there has been other meetings that these council members have been attending. And also we have 2 board of supervisors that sit on SKF that also have other commitments. And sometimes we don't have a full board. So there has been a delay. However, the recruiting firm is doing their job by getting the hiring, doing a brochure and getting the information out there. Do I feel that it's gone a little long? Yeah, I voiced my concern. I did say that. I feel that, you know, this has gone a little long. And I understood because we only meet once a month is all we meet. So they are working on it. And like I said, my next meeting is next week and I'll probably get a new update and hopefully by then we start the hiring process. But I do have a question for you, City Manager. Let me ask you, since she brought something up, do you feel that you've had a delay with Veronica at SKF?
No, I think personally speaking, my experience and staff's experience is, you know, at the staff level, even beyond Veronica, you know, we have 2 engineering technicians who attend our development review committee meetings. I think I can sympathize with the concern that as we're ramping up development, we're upgrading these lift stations. Clarkson Lift Station is at almost 80% completion. As we're sending them more projects, you know, there is a potential concern that the only engineer that SKF has is also running the organization. There could be some roadblocks there. We haven't experienced any. It's just something that we want to, from my perspective, it's a good idea to get ahead of. But SKF has always been great to work with. And I think Deputy City Manager would echo those sentiments.
Yeah. Because I haven't heard of any issues or complaints or anything with other city managers or other cities like Kingsburg or Fowler, because like I said, I mean, this is brought to our attention if there was. So I was just wondering, I didn't hear anything from Selma or from you. I was wondering, is this the reason why this is being brought up?
No, at the staff level, we're working pretty closely. I mean, there was a period there where, you know, there was some communication that just wasn't being had, but I think those things were ironed out at the staff level. But no, I think, you know, it's just a matter of the horizon from where we see things going from a City of Selma planning and development perspective. Things are really going to pick up at the beginning of the year. So we want to make sure that things are not going to fall through the cracks at that point.
And I can assure you that that's not going to happen.
good to go to the next topic? This
Okay,
is a
update number
discussion item.
6.
Public, anybody from the public? Anybody online or on Zoom?
As a reminder to the callers we have on the line, please use your raise your hand feature. We will add you to the meeting queue. For the caller that is calling in, please use *9 and we will add you to the meeting queue. Mayor Robertson, we have no hands raised at this time.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to item 6 of the regular agenda. This is an update item regarding Julissa Fuentes fundraiser special event fee waiver.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Today I am bringing back some information that was requested. As you guys are aware, at our last council meeting, a special event fee waiver was authorized for the fundraiser for Julissa Fuentes. At that time, we were unsure of the exact cost because we hadn't gone through the actual application fully. And I was able to get those fees and that number so that I could report back to you guys today. In total, the fees that were waived were the special event permit at $945, the sound permit at $80, and a park rental at $350. So the total was $1,375. I have been in contact with Rachel, who was the organizer of the event throughout the entire process. She said that the event was a success, and she is very grateful for the fee waiver and the opportunity to get this event completed successfully. While obviously there was no expenditures on our part, we did lose out on a loss of revenue, but we do appreciate council's support. I do think at this time, one of the other organizers, Mark, would like to approach the council.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and community members. Mark Dudley, Selma resident. I'm just here just to provide an update on the event. I gotta say, first off, I'd like to thank all of you for your support, for your help, and for expediting the fee waiver and the application process. It did help this event. It did help us to be able to put this event on in a short amount of time. The event was successful. We received a tremendous amount of support from the community, the biker community, local businesses, and even strangers came along and showed their support. The turnout was pretty nice. I gotta say, all proceeds that were collected were handed directly over to the family. Cash, anything else, Cash App, Venmo, etc. And I'd like to thank you guys all as well for the condition of the park. It was clean. Trash cans were emptied, bathrooms were open, power was on. So thank you for that. And then I'd also like to thank you guys. Well, actually, on behalf of the Fuentes family, they'd like to thank you guys for your help and support, and that they're very grateful for you guys. That'll be it.
Thank you very much, Mark. And I was glad to see the reward went to $20,000.
Yes, it did, fortunately. And I'll clarify, just to clarify, not all that was us. But you know, and
But you
bringing that
certainly helped
reward
it
up.
with the
But it
bike ride.
did help increase the reward. And we are grateful for that.
Good
And I'm
job.
grateful for the city of Selma for allowing us to put this event on.
Let's get Julissa home.
Any questions?
Anybody? Anybody from the community?
Well, it seemed like it was a beautiful event. I got to go by there and it was amazing. And I also want to thank our staff, Amy, for just expediting everything and getting everything in order for the event to do, so you guys can have it. That was amazing. Thank you again, and staff.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too. Okay, with that, we will move on to our item number 7, which is a public hearing item. It's a public hearing to introduce an ordinance to establish the Selma Downtown Business Improvement District pursuant to the Parking and Business Improvement Area Law of 1989.
Hello, Mayor and council members. Again, it's me. I am here again to talk about the Business Improvement District. As you guys are all aware, we are ready to move forward. We still are not at the 7
committee members. However, we do have 4 and we have 2 pending. So at this point, we felt confident in bringing this to you today because we are aware that with these numbers, we can begin to hold meetings immediately as soon as we get going. So I can go over this. Again, this is the Business Improvement District. These are fees that will be collected by each of the businesses that reside in the downtown area, with the exception of new businesses. As council had directed previously, we did make a caveat in here that says that new businesses for their first year will be waived. So that is included in the management plan. At this point, those fees will then be placed into a budget, and we will begin in any of the improvements, marketing and et cetera that we have for these businesses. If you look at the management plan, we do have an estimated annual revenue of $25,000 in the beginning. Again, this is just an estimated total. Obviously, it'll take a little bit time for us to go there, but it does give you an idea of what we are anticipating. Again, council will have the final say in a lot of these recommendations as we bring them forward, just as you would with any other committees or commissions. We really wanted to make sure that the marketing and improvements got the most, because we are aware that that is exactly what our downtown area needs. So our highest priority is there. Again, we will work on business development and research, and then we have a little bit of a contingency in the case that something comes up, as we see often in budgets. So that's a breakdown of the budget. Also included in the report are the 4 members that have applied at this time. Again, like I said, we do have 2 pending. However, they did want to kind of sit in on a couple of meetings before they fully committed to that. But with the 4, we are able to hold meetings and have a quorum. With that, if council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Council, have any questions for Amy at this time? Okay, this is a public hearing, so we will now open the public hearing to the public. Does the public have any input they would like to give on this establishing the Selma Downtown Business Improvement District? We have anybody online or on the phone who would like to make a comment?
As a reminder to the callers that we have on Zoom, please use your raise your hand feature and we will add you to the meeting queue. Mayor, I see no hands raised.
With that, thank you, City Clerk. With that, we will close the public hearing and we will bring the item back to the board and ask for any input at this point before we put this to a vote. This is the first reading, I understand. So there'll be another, if this passes, there'll be another one after this.
Correct.
Okay. Does anyone have a comment at this time?
Amy, I have a quick question.
Yes,
If we pass this today, and then you have another hearing, correct?
correct.
When will the first meeting take place?
Like 5 minutes later.
Oh, good.
No, I'm just kidding.
After the
As
meeting.
soon, yes, correct. As soon as we get that final approval, I guarantee you that will be one of the very first meetings that I schedule.
And then in terms of the meeting, and I want to say thank you to the community members who are volunteering to give of their time for the Business Improvement District. It's really important, and thank you for your involvement. In terms of those meetings, how will they be structured? Who will be doing the agendas? Will there be a city representative there?
Absolutely. It will be conducted exactly like you would see any of our other commissions or committees. They will have to follow the Brown Act. There will be agendas. Everything will be noticed properly. We will make sure that we follow all of that.
And then council will be able to see a record of that. Minutes of the
Absolutely.
meeting.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Does anybody have a comment? We're kind of coming to the end of a long road here. This is where we all first met Amy when she came with us to the city, and she and Jan Manami, who started this, was the consultant who started the BID. Thank you for that, Jan. So we're kind of coming full circle on this, and it's great. It's taken a while, but it's definitely been worth it. And really excited about the Business Improvement District. This is something we've been working on as a city for 10 years, and this is something we're finally accomplishing, which I think is very important. And, just from seeing the way our city is flowering with people who are being more creative and have new ideas and are not necessarily having to go through the old organizations, this is potentially a funding source for these very creative people who are coming up with these business opportunities that will move our city forward in the future and will help our city prosper and grow. So I'm really excited about this Business Improvement District.
And real quick, I would like to mention Jan, of course, while I would love to take credit for all this, really all I did was put a pretty bow on it and bring it to you guys. The real work was done by Jan and Tracy, our former economic development analyst. They're really the ones that held all the meetings and really did the legwork. Again, I just put a pretty bow on it and we get to stamp it and move it forward. So thank you to Jan and Tracy, obviously, for that hard work because it would not be here without them.
Thank you. Okay, so is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll
Call,
second it.
call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. Okay, next item is a public hearing item and it's consideration of a resolution approving the application for a community development block grant funding for fiscal year 2023-2024.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Deputy City Manager Rob Terry here reporting on this item. So each year, the county receives an allocation of CDBG grant dollars from the federal government. They then allocate that out to the member agencies, the 7 participating member agencies within Fresno County. The county requires a 2-step process as we go through this. And the first process is that we submit to them a resolution stating that this is the project that we intend to move forward with. And that's the step that we are at here for this tonight. So it is required to be a public hearing for this. We did send out public hearing notices to the Selma Enterprise that were published on September 21st for this item. And the application that we are proposing for the 2023-2024 funding cycle is called the Selma ADA Ramp Replacement Project. The bounds of the project are bounded by Yerba Street to the north, Skelton Street to the east, Valley View Street to the south, and Van Horn Street to the west. The entirety of the project is a focus on ADA ramps and sidewalk improvements to ensure that we have appropriate Americans with Disabilities Act access and structures in those areas there. Any improvements that need to be made, any repairs that need to be made, and that is the focus there. The proposed project is estimated to be $249,050. We are expected to receive for our CDBG allocation this next year $235,000. That means that the city would have to fund the outstanding amount of $14,050 from its local transportation funds. All of those items, of course, would be included in the upcoming budget that would be presented to council for your approval. But what this would do is it would give staff the direction upfront to ensure that those items are within the budget and to begin preparing in detail the application items to then submit officially to the county. Those items also would still come back to council for updates and approvals as appropriate at that time. But the action that we're looking for council to take tonight and the recommendation that staff is making is to adopt the resolution that would approve us putting in the application for the CDBG funding for the fiscal year of 2023-24 for the Selma ADA ramp replacement project as proposed. That concludes my staff report. We also have the city engineer here, and the two of us are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Very much. With that, we will ask for some comments for clarification from the city council before we open public hearing to the public. Does council have any questions at this time for the deputy city manager or the city engineer?
Deputy City Manager, I have a quick question. When you stated on the boundaries, Yerba Street to the north, Skelton Street to the east, Valley View Street to the south, and Van Horn Street to the west. Now, are we saying specific Yerba Street all the way from one corner to another corner? Is that how you're describing it?
I'll let the city engineer touch on that one because it doesn't end up being a perfect boundary on that. That's really just the bounds. CDB project areas, of course, are very specific, and what you can do with the dollars are very specific as well. I'll let the city engineer touch on that.
Yeah, what we're doing is doing infill projects. So within that block, there's portions on the north side of Yerba that don't have sidewalk.
Right.
So we're filling in that portion
Right.
on the southwest corner. So we're filling in the sidewalk projects and we're replacing the ADA ramps on the corners
Okay.
of that major block.
Mhm.
Within this CDBG money, there's eligible blocks that they say we have to work within. So we can't just do it all over the city. There's certain areas, basically in the downtown areas, that we have to use this funding for. So that's how we primarily choose what projects we're gonna do. And then we try to use this money to help with ADA.
And
And
I,
missing sidewalk.
sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. I think it's also important to point out that within those bounds, of course, that the county gives us these areas that are where you can only spend the dollars, and these are the type of improvements. The vetting process that we go through as staff with the community to ensure that we are focusing the best that we can within those areas and within those bounds comes through our active transportation program. So when we went through that process there, we had also identified where we knew we had these needs that were associated with active transportation, which includes items, of course, that are linked with ADA. And so that's the reason why where the specifics will come up is through the ATP process and plan that was already delivered to council in the past and has been approved, and then it fits within the bounds of this program.
Okay, because I'm very familiar with these areas and they very much needed sidewalks there and those handicap ramps because they don't have them there. And citizens have been wanting sidewalks for many, many years. So I'm glad to hear that they're finally going to get some. Thank you.
With that, we'll open the public hearing to the public. Does the public have any comments at this time regarding this item? Do we have anyone on Zoom or on the phone?
As a reminder to the callers that we have on Zoom, please use your raise your hand feature and we will add you to the meeting queue. Mayor Robertson, I see no hands raised.
Thank you. With that, we will close the public hearing and bring the matter back to council and ask for further comment before we go for a vote. Question is it just Yerba or is Van Horn? There are some sections of Van Horn that don't have sidewalks either. They're going to be, are they eligible as well?
For this project, obviously, we only have so much money to use. Specifically, there's a portion on the north side of Yerba. On the southwest corner of Yerba and Skelton, we're doing all those sidewalks there. There's on the east side of Skelton, from Valley View up to the alley. And then on the east side of Van Horn, from Valley View to the alley. Those are the primary sidewalks that we're adding to make continuous sidewalk along those areas don't have any sidewalk right now.
Right.
And then we're doing the ramps at the intersection of Van Horn and Yerba, Skelton and Yerba, and we're doing one on Valley View and Van Horn. And
To go together, right? When you do the sidewalk, you've got to make them ADA compliant. Does that go with the actual construction project? That's part of it. Okay.
yes, and again, we're just replacing the ramps because those are the primary needs that they're not in compliance. Obviously, we don't have the money to fix all of the sidewalks, so we're just doing the missing pieces of the sidewalk. And then we're replacing the non-compliant ADA ramps in this area.
It's good to know that there are other sidewalks that needed too, maybe with the LTF funds and with some excess funding in the future, the city can keep reviewing that and keep going back and maybe block grant funds in the future. So those sidewalks are really necessary. Any other comments at this time? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Guerra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cho,
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza Navarro,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Robertson.
Yes. And with that, we'll move on to departmental reports. City Manager Santillan.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Just a few updates here. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the community. We received an update from Cal Water with regard to the city's performance in terms of water conservation during these extreme drought conditions. And as always, the City of Selma residents have risen to the occasion and conserved more than the target of 15% and have actually conserved 20% compared to August 2020. So thank you to the community for continuing to conserve water. I also wanted to provide the council and the public with an update with regard to staffing. So we have the pleasure of welcoming our newest deputy city manager over administrative services to the staff. Her name is Jasmine Baines, and she comes to Selma by way of the city of Coalinga, where she was formerly the financial services director. Unfortunately, she was not able to attend tonight because she is at a Municipal Finance Officers Association conference. But she will be here at the next council meeting, and I will present her to the council and to the community at that time. And then finally, and last but not least, the council is aware, but you know, I did want to share with the public that we were successful in passing through legislation in the form of AB 2780, which was specific to the city of Selma, giving us the ability to form an enhanced infrastructure financing district, an EIFD, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually extremely important for the community in terms of financing infrastructure like sewer, like water, broadband, and really anything else that goes with residential and commercial development. This is going to be huge, especially on the west side of Selma, and in our former redevelopment areas like the industrial park and anywhere else where we choose to set the boundaries for an EIFD. But so many thanks to all the partners that work together to get this done. Our partners at CRISCOM, especially Jason Segan, but also special thanks to Assemblyman Joaquin Arambula, who was our champion for this bill. And he was just an absolute warrior, taking this through the Assembly, the Senate committees, and ultimately to the governor's desk for signature. So thank you very much.
Thank you. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. Not too much to update everyone on. Just happy to be here still and getting my feet wet, working with the different department heads. And maybe I'll have a longer update next time.
Thank you. All right, Deputy City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I did have several items I wanted to touch on. First, we will be having Waste Management will actually be holding on our behalf a waste management cleanup. This is scheduled for Saturday, October 22nd between 8 a.m. and noon. In addition, they will also be doing the community cleanup, which I want to point out does include items like being able to bring in tires, which is a very common thing that we see waste of. So the community cleanup, that's extremely important to point out. Those dates run between October 17th and October 22nd. The Monday through Friday portions of that, it is from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Saturday 8 a.m. to noon. We do have flyers for all of those items that have been continually distributed. We will make sure that those continue to go out as we are approaching those dates. Both of those events are being held at the Selma Unified School District Transportation Facility. So they're partnering with them there. They're both drive-through events as well. So important to point out. Also want to give a lot of thanks to our public works crews. As I'm sure you've noticed, as you're driving down Whitson, you're seeing that continues to just get more and more detail there to highlight not only the banners, but just to ensure that critical corridor looks clean and it looks safe. So we're seeing a lot of that detail continue there. And we're now starting to see, as we're into October, the fall banners and the band festival banners are starting to go up in the downtown. So that started today. So you'll see those items continually working through in the downtown area as we continue to make sure that there's good focus on our downtown. And then lastly, in line with one of the public comments that was made today about public safety, I thought it was really important for the council and for the community to know that we as staff have been actively working on mapping efforts that take all of the data and put everything into GIS so we can start analyzing items, overlaying with each other. And one of those items specifically had to do with some questions and feedback that council had several months back about locations of stop signs and how are those determined, and you know, if one was ever desired to be added, what do you go through for that? We didn't have GIS mapping that was specific to those areas. So we've been working with QKR planning consultant to get all of that mapped, put into GIS, and then working with our police department to ensure that we also have collision data that's overlaid on that same map. What that does is that gives us the opportunity to make data-driven decisions or data-driven presentations to council for your potential decisions if you would like to analyze those items. So I think it's important that the community knows that we are always mindful of the things that are happening in the community and doing all that we can to make sure that we have good data and good background so that we can make those decisions in the most timely manner, in the most efficient and appropriate manner that we can. That map at this time is not something that is ready for public consumption or that's even ready to be presented to to council because we're still vetting and making sure that all of the data is correct and accurate. But very important that the council and the community knows that we are actively working on items such as that.
Thank you for that.
That's it. Thank you.
All right. Fire Chief Peterson.
Nothing to report tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Police Chief Alcaraz.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Unfortunately, obviously, we all know we had a tragic vehicle versus pedestrian on Friday night near the football game on Thompson at Lewis. Thankfully, the young women seem to be recovering. It's unfortunate they even having to go through that. However, we did meet with one of the grandparents of the pedestrians today. We spoke at length, and I'll try to reach out with any other family members to speak with regards to how we do our best to ensure that something like that doesn't happen in the future. So again, that's what I'll leave that at this moment. It is an ongoing investigation, and we'll continue to do our best to ensure the safety of our citizens. Does anybody have any questions?
Chief, I do. I
Yes, ma'am.
also received a call from one of the mothers and grandmothers that their children were hit that night. And they were very, very emotional, and it was horrible hearing them. And I just want to know what they've asked me is to bring to council or bring to you. Is there any way that we can have them put a stop sign like the way the Little League put their stop sign with the tire at the middle of the crosswalk there, and maybe have a SRO officer present during that time where they're crossing to the game? Because I remember when my older kids were going to games and we were going to football games, there was police presence everywhere. They were also guiding, the traffic and making sure. And I think from my experience at that time, you wouldn't see vehicles speeding. And now when I take my younger daughter, there's no police presence. From my understanding, I believe there's one inside the football game. They do have security, but my understanding, they're not armed. So my question is, this is why it's important for two entities that I know the mayor has requested, I've requested for school board, council to get together, and the other boards like the healthcare district. These are things that if we come together, we can help each other with issues that come up, because what is it going to take? Someone's life? It's not worth losing a child, losing anybody for that matter. These are things that we need to work together. So I'm coming to you to ask if there's a possible way you can do that, Rudy, because I know you have the heart for kids, for people in this community. And we need to do things better.
If I can interject, Councilmember Guerra, that would be a request, probably not appropriate at the staff level, but more at the elected body level. If what you're looking for is to coordinate between the different bodies of the school district and the city and the healthcare district.
So are you making a request to, since they voted down having a meeting, the school board voted down 4-1 to have a meeting with the rest of the boards. Are you requesting an agenda item?
Can we leave it for the end? Because I think right now we're going over department reports.
Okay, when you have your council comments, you can address this, but maybe you want to request an agenda item for the future. Is that what you're getting at, city manager, that this would be addressed rather than directly as an agenda item? So we're getting into some specifics here. Are you making that request, or city attorney?
No, my comment was actually with regard to addressing it directly to staff because it's more of a elected body level item. So absolutely, I think it makes sense to place it on a future agenda.
City attorney, you concur?
Yes.
Okay.
Additionally, we continue to take leads on the Julissa Fuentes case. Unfortunately, none of those leads have been promising to this point. However, we continue to take in information and any lead that we seem promising, so that that's still at the forefront of our priorities with regards to our investigations unit. And Wednesday, October 5th, we'll be having a Coffee with the Cop event at the Senior Center from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. So we're looking forward to that, sitting down, meeting with our community members and getting out from behind my desk, which is never ideal. So I will leave the council with that.
Thank you, Chief. Community Services Director.
Absolutely. We all know I've got an update for you guys. Good evening again, Mayor and council members. All right, get your pen and papers ready. Here we go. All right, flu vaccine, October 5th from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Senior Center. This is open to the public and also open to employees, staff, if they are interested. This is a free vaccine, again, October 5th, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Senior Center. Our seniors will also be going on several trips coming up. They will be going to the Fresno Fair and the Sacramento River Cruise. So congrats or a shout out to Liz for coordinating those sort of things. For the week of Halloween, we will be having a Halloween dance at the Senior Center on Halloween. So if you guys would like to join us, there will be a costume competition. And I hear it gets pretty exciting out there. So if you'd like to join us, we would love to have you. And in regards to the band festival, the seniors will actually this year be participating. They will have a float and they are incredibly excited about it. They're talking costumes and all kinds of fun stuff. So it's really fun to see them get involved. But I also did want to touch on the band festival because last week, Deputy City Manager called a roundtable with all of the department heads that would be involved in this. And what we're seeing is more coordinated efforts amongst all the departments to ensure that these type of events are as safe and well coordinated as possible. So I know fire was there, police was there, we were here. I mean, it was just a really great opportunity to come together. And from the sounds of it, it's not something that's been done as well maybe in the past. So congrats and thank you to Deputy City Manager for hosting that. Update on the Schaefer Park bathrooms, because that is obviously at the topic of everybody's conversation. We have begun scheduling. This will be a three-step project. We will start with Public Works, who will be demoing the current walls, if you can call them that. And then we will be bringing in, for a separate project, we'll be bringing in partitions for the female and the male restrooms. The final step will be in industrial epoxy flooring that will be put in to ensure longevity and to make sure that these bathrooms stay as nice as possible. With that, there will also be a cove installed so that it'll make cleaning of the bathrooms that much simpler into the future. So in these projects, we really paid attention to ensuring that it was a project that would be longstanding and we would get the most bang for the buck out of these projects. So I would like to thank the Public Works leads, Jess and Fernando, as they helped coordinate this. And during the demo, we will be bringing in porta potties so that obviously we will still have restroom facilities there, but I anticipate we'll get very little pushback for porta potties as we all know what the end project is going to be. So I'm very excited to announce that. We should have that back to council for exact dates soon as obviously supplies and all of that get routed. So it's very exciting. We also have Pippin opening at the Art Center October 7th, this Friday, and it'll run through the 22nd. The very exciting part of that is that we are also featuring, they did kind of a public marketing campaign and they requested art from the local community. And so they will be displaying various different kinds of visual arts from the community members within the venue. So it's a great partnership between the arts and also the community. So I'm really excited to see that. So if you guys get a chance and want to take a tour over there, let us know. We'd love to show you around and show you some of the cool things that they are doing. I know earlier we talked about the police department getting an online system. I just wanted to let council know and let the community know that the senior center does have 4 computers on site that are for public use. This can be used Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. With that, we can also help our seniors utilize that system if that is something that they are interested in. But that is free and open to the public. If anybody needs a computer that would like to utilize that system, we can help them through that process at the senior center. And then last but not least, the police chief and I have received reports that the Grinch is coming to town in an effort to foil Santa's arrival. Because of this, Chief and I are working together to create a holiday event in Selma that will hopefully share the Grinch, our holiday spirit. So what we are doing, because we want to make sure Selma gets the best possible community events possible, is that the chief has agreed PD will pick up the Grinch on a date that we will bring to you next council meeting. And during that event, we will show the Grinch just how much community spirit and the holiday fever that we have here in Selma. And our ultimate goal is that he will have his heart grow 3 times so large and will not foil Santa's arrival the next weekend. So we look forward to getting you guys more information about that. We hope this is a good community event, and we hope to have everybody's participation in it. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Look forward to that. Okay, with that, we will move on to council reports. Councilmember Mendoza Navarro.
So I just want to apologize if I haven't been able to participate in any of the events in the last couple of weeks. I really wanted to go to the fight, but on a personal note, our oldest son just got married on Saturday. So we were busy planning the wedding, and it was a beautiful event. So now I can get back to, community interaction. I really wish I could have gone to the rib cook-off, but again, that was wedding day. And I wanted to just give a special shout out to, staff, Fernando. Thank you, Councilmember Trujillo, for going up to Sacramento for the EIFD. I know this was one of the things that, and you gave us an update. I had actually put on the goals for, I want to say it was April of 2021, right around there, that I wanted to get this cleared up. And, one of the biggest things that I kept hearing was it takes an act of Congress to, get the Department of Finance to clear this off. And so my understanding is we paid over $740,000 or so for this. I guess it was and I think Mayor had gave some update a while back on exactly, because he was here when all of this happened. So I'm really glad that we were able to get that going. And yes, please, thank Chriscom for the collaboration. And I'm really excited for, to hear more about that, especially because as I met with some of the developers out there, that was one of the things that they, mentioned was, EIFDs. And then when I went up to Sacramento, that was one of the workshops that I attended because I wanted to learn more. And so it's a big deal. Like you said, it doesn't sound like it is, but it is. And so I'm so glad that we were able to work through that, especially in such a short time, because like I said, I put it on the goals in April of 2021 for that to get cleared up. And then I think that was, just a couple of things. The St. Joseph's is holding the Share the Love Festival. They usually hold it in September, the last weekend of September, but this year they pushed it to October 23rd. So that is going to be an event for the public. And like I said, it's usually about 9 o'clock, I think it starts, and it's an event for the all the community. Everybody's welcome to come. They'll have food vending, a lot of the ministries will be selling food, and I'm not sure if they're having games or not, but I know that there'll be more information in the bulletin. And then again, the Selma Catholic Women's Club's fashion show and boutique is still on for November 5th. And I don't have all the details yet as far as the time or the price, but I should have that back by next council meeting. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Trio.
I too also had a business matter to attend to, so I was gone for the last 2 weeks. First of all, I want to congratulate the Chamber of Commerce for the rib cook-off. Congratulations, heard it was a good success. I want to congratulate the Lions Club. Bev, I'm sorry I did donate, but I apologize I was not there. I want to congratulate our staff because what I'm noticing is that we're having staff start getting together, working unified, and I want to use the word, I love the data-driven decision. I love that statement. But one of the things I want to tell you guys is staff is gaining momentum. You guys have wins. There's a lot of things that I've seen here as a council member, and I've seen wins. When I say wins, that means these are things that are positive. There's some things that the community doesn't know what EAFD, what does it represent? Well, there's developers that understand the technology of, or the actual techniques or what it takes to advance. So I really want to commend all our staff, every one of them, because the momentum is moving. You guys are moving, you guys have wins. And I want to let you guys take note of that. And lastly, I want to congratulate and I want to thank our city manager. I stood there when you talked to Mrs. Cabello and you were adamant and I was really happy along with Mr. Arambula. So I want to congratulate you. That's a really big win. That's a really big win. And let's not kid around. These are wins. Our city staff has momentums. So I want to congratulate all you guys. You guys should be very proud of a team effort. It takes a team. It doesn't take individuals. I also want to congratulate our city council because, 2-3 years ago, we were talking about the BID and there's four of us that have businesses in downtown. And we had to actually step back. And the fact that we did that and the fact that we're approving it, it's a vision, it's a goal. So we approve that. So now what does it do? We hand that off to our staff and our staff takes off with it. So keep that momentum going. I appreciate it. I thank you guys.
Thank you. Councilmember Guerra.
Okay. I just have a couple of things. The mayor and I, we did a presentation at the Iroquois School for the second graders again and we did a presentation regarding city government. So the kids were very excited. That was a good thing. I also attended the American Cancer Society fundraiser for Jane Ono's event, and that was a great event. And I also attended a program at the Gawada Temple, which was a great event, and they had over 1,500 people attending. So that was a very nice event as well. And that's pretty much it for me. Oh, I do want to mention, City Manager, did you want me to make the comment now in regards to putting that on the agenda?
I would defer to the city attorney when the best timing for that would be.
I would say right now is fine. The agenda does state that in addition to reports, this is the time to make requests for future agenda items.
Okay. So if we could put that on the next agenda, that'd be nice.
What exactly is the agenda item going to be?
If we can get the two entity, at least I would say the two, or including, I'm not sure about healthcare district because they only meet once every quarter. So I would say at least the school board and city council.
So the nature of the item will be for city council to vote on whether to request a meeting with the school board and the healthcare district board. Is that what you're asking?
I would like to include the healthcare district board if possible, but at this time, because of the nature of the incident that has happened, we may need to do more of an emergency meeting. And I'm not sure well, maybe healthcare can make it. Yeah, let's include all three boards.
The council would be directing the city manager to coordinate that meeting, to reach out to those agencies and coordinate that meeting. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. We can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Cho.
Yes, yeah, I'd like to thank city staff. You guys worked so hard for all of us. Thank you so much. I'm gonna say it again. I love those new street signs. Every time I look up, I'm really happy. Our pack fight, okay, was last weekend and went really well. Was attended by over 500 people. Our police officer Corey did win, but he won only by 1 point. So it was very, so close, okay? The person I was worried about was the referee, which was my brother. He was like 5'6". And then you got these two guys going at it. I said, oh, my brother's dead if he gets hit. But it turned out really good. It was good showing. The police officers out there, the fireman was out there walking their fighter up there. It was really nice. Michelle, our Lion member, they did fight. She did not win, but she gave it her best. I was really proud of her. She trained about 2 months and the other lady was probably training about a year. So I'm trying to coast into a rematch next year. So we're working on that. let's see what else. We did have a fundraiser for the 559 mural project at Cho's on Monday night, and I think they raised enough money. I think they're ready to do the wall. So finally, we did help them out with that. That was great. Let's see. And I did attend the Pizza Planet. They had a couple weeks, they had a band in there. It was full of pizza, full of community people, and it was really nice to see them. It was very emotional to say, hey, we're gonna miss you guys. And so far, what I've heard is they sold the building, but it's gonna go back to be a grocery store. It was a grocery store before, and then they bought it, and then now it's gonna go back to be a neighborhood grocery store. The rib cook-off, everybody that went had a great time, had great food, so it was a good project. Central Valley Lioness Lines, okay, we're gonna be selling our famous chili verde dinner. It's gonna be October 25th, so our $12 a meal, pick up on that day is 5 to 7 at Cho's. So I will probably be contacting you guys, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. We have met in the past with, speaking of Assemblymember Rambula, State Senator Hurtado. We met in October, November to go over budget requests. We didn't do it last year because of the flux in the city manager position, the positions in the city. But I would say it'd be a good time for staff and for 2 council members to meet with members of their office to start the budget process. You can't start too early to reserve budget money and to get requests. I know I spoke with State Senator Hurtado last year about the importance of getting that money for our new fire station, and that was very important. Congratulations to our city for getting AB 2780 passed. That's really important. Again, appreciate State Senator Hurtado taking that to the Senate and getting that through and getting that to the governor. And that all goes to planning and meeting with them early to get our budget request and to look at that. And to that end, I think the city council should come up with some ideas for budget requests before we meet with them for a future council meeting. So since this is the time to request agenda items, I would request as an agenda items for next year's budget. We're already hearing from the offices that belts are being tightened. The $97 billion surplus could be a thing of the past. So we need to make sure that we're especially efficient this year with these offices to request funding for next year. And as Councilmember Mendoza Navarro said, I was here for the reason we did have to get AB 2780. It would take a while to discuss it, but I'd be more than happy to discuss it with anybody on the phone, online, on Facebook, anytime, or come to my office at 1948 High Street, and we'll go over every detail of what actually happened in that process. I want to say thank you to the LAFCO director for his weekly reports to the LAFCO board, the local agency formation commission. I'm on the board as an alternate, and he sends a report out every week, a written report based on what he's done. And his last report was full of details. One of them was about the city of Selma actually going for an annexation. So I hope for the best for the city of Selma and moving forward on that annexation. I too attended Jane Ono's Cancer Fighting Fundraiser for the American Cancer Society. Really good time. I attended that program with Councilmember Guerra at the Gurdwara Sahib last Sunday. I attended a Selma Cemetery District meeting. Everybody should attend or think about the Selma Cemetery District, unfortunately, at least a little bit, because we have to get a new cemetery, everybody. We're running out of space there in the cemetery district. This is a crossroads they are in right now of when they execute this new on the piece of land that they have, which was voted down by the Board of Supervisors in the past, but which is going back to the County Planning Commission for a conditional use permit. really important for us to be on top of that because we're gonna need another cemetery, and COVID kind of accelerated the urgency of that. Anyway, I also, as I've been updating the city council, and that's the reason we should all get together as board, so we all know what our city is doing. So we have that communication. That's teamwork. As I've been updating the city council for several months now, that catalytic converter theft bill that I brought up way back in early summer, it actually got passed. The mayor signed it, the governor signed it when he signed AB 2780. And that it should reduce incidents of catalytic converter theft, which has caused so much misery in our state. And finally, our lawmakers tackled it at the state level. I appreciate that. I also attended a COG meeting. There was lots on that agenda. If anybody wants to know, please let me know. We'll go over it. And I attended a Fresno County Rural Transit Agency meeting. The Selma maintenance facility is moving forward. Should be probably next year, 2023 should be a big year for construction in Selma. That's a piece of infrastructure that will really help our city. Will create 10 jobs, and it's not something you really think about, but it's kind of what the city does. You know, it's things that the city does you don't think about. But having that maintenance facility is going to bring a lot of other feeder businesses around, and it's going to be a real step forward. And it's going to be a real win for our city. I was looking at the news and seeing that Iran is boiling over with protests over their religious government. The people are finally standing up and protesting and opposing the attempts to control their population. So good luck to them. Do we have any oral communications at this time?
Teresa Salas, 1701 Daniel Avenue. I would like to thank staff and council and whoever had a hand in working with the school district and waste management to get our community cleanup back in Selma. So we don't have to drive all the way past Fowler to drop our trash. So I'm looking forward to taking the load over there myself, but and having it at the school district transportation office. It's going to make it a lot easier for a lot of people, I think. So thank you.
$1057 Mill Street, Rose Robertson. I'm still wondering if we received a letter from the state that we are allowed to use the $4.5 million grant towards the 10 acres in writing. Has that been received yet?
Oh, the 4.5 acres. City manager, has there been a letter from the Division of Parks and Rec to that effect?
Not a letter. They requested some additional information, which we have provided.
Thank you.
Also, is there any information on church or I'm not too sure what exactly went in on McCall Village, excuse me, not McCall Street. There used to be the old bank. Do we have a church there, or do we know what's there? We had some citizens call in and talk about that. Are we aware of that?
That's a question that has actually come up, where the old West America Bank was. Is that Victory Outreach? Is that a shelter, a church? What is that?
You know, it's rented.
Yeah,
I can follow up on that question and bring it back to council.
great. Thank you for that.
Mr. Mayor, would you mind if I had a request, since a citizen came and requested it? I've had multiple people question me and say that the $4.5 million is actually the actual cost for our park. So I'd like to put on the agenda so we can get a breakdown as to what it'll actually cost, either at the park, at the Ponding Basin, or at the 10 acres. So we can come back, just put on the council, they can come back and give us a little update and let us know what it actually costs to build a park and what the actual endeavors are. That if we could add that to the agenda, please, just for informational purposes.
We can do that.
Okay. All right. Do we have any other comments at this time? Do we have anybody on Zoom or online? That's going to be a really important update on that West America Bank. There's a lot of people asking about that. A lot of issues going on there. We need to get to the bottom of. Okay, with that, is there a motion to
I'll make a motion. to
adjourn?
adjourn.
We're adjourned. Thank you.